So as you're developing, you're rich in data at Halliburton, and your industry is rich in data, both geophysical data, data from upstream operations, data from downstream operations in the energy business. What does it look like? Just briefly walk us through the innovation process for you, from not necessarily from ingest, but how is it that you arrive at, here's a hypothesis. Let's test this out. Is there data around it? What does that look like in terms of where you go? How long does it take to get something from an idea about innovation that could be data driven into, does it work or not?
So when I look at this industry, especially any big industry, right? Not only just having done some work in the past in other industries, which have historical data, correct? And that's sitting. In fact, I use a term called dark data because the value has not been generated from it. And one can actually start with just analyzing that dark data. You will get some value out of it. And there is no risk to any of the current operations or any other activity that you do. The only thing what you are doing is to learn from that historical data. And that learning is what you want to implement to the real-time data.
Right. And
how do you quantify that? Is that if you talk to the leaders, they should if they're true leaders, then they have a knowledge of where their cost is wasted.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, why are they leading something? Right. So tacit knowledge wise, you have a rough idea whether my supply chain is 30% inefficient or 50% inefficient or whatever it is. So now my goal is, can I invest X amount of dollars to actually reduce that inefficiency by X%?
Okay.
And then you start building it and building a solution in what I call in a phased manner, because you cannot fathom that I know all the possibility of this supply chain problem, right? And then you start whatever data you connect, build a solution, you look at it, interpret it, ask the domain expert to explain that model results. If they can't explain, we have different challenge. If they explain, then saying, why are this activity happening? Is there more data to it? And then you augment that data. Hence, you keep reducing on one side the bias, second side you increase your value.
Right.
And then you do it in phased manner, very small. First initial sprints could be as small as 8 weeks to 16 weeks, depending on the complexity of the data challenges. And then you build it. And I think so far, one of the anecdote that keeps floating in the industry is that only 10% of AI projects succeed or 10% of big data projects succeed. I am not a believer of that, because I believe that if data is there is value in the data. What we should really look at the value in the data, not whether the project is successful or not. Because if there is a value, even if it's $1, it is successful.
Yeah, and there's the notion that we don't really fail. We just learn a lot along the way, right? And how can those learnings come together and converge so that then we have that aha moment and we actually do produce extraordinary value? But one thing is for sure, if you don't experiment and try to learn, then you never will. Yep. So, status quo is for most industries, and certainly not for yours. Status quo is not an option, right?
Yeah, status quo is not an option. I think for none of the big major industries it is. Forget about oil and gas. I think any major industry it's not anymore. One of the reasons, and that's my pet topic actually, I say if you look at one of the exponential technologies, is search engine.
Mm-hmm.
We live in our personal life, we live off of it.
We do.
But when it comes to industries, very few companies, I'm not talking about e-commerce companies, right? Because that's what they live off of it. But any major companies like manufacturing, energy, space, whatever, how good are their search engines for internal use?
It's a great point. It's a great point.
They only allow you to search what is hard-coded on their website.
Right.
But all that data that is sitting under my table, what about that?
Yeah, that's an interesting point you make. We were working with, we ourselves are a consulting organization, but we were working with a very large consulting organization. And one of the projects was they lamented, if we only knew what we know, right? Which if you think about it, that's the intellectual property of a consulting organization, is the ability to effectively create knowledge transfer and analysis and solve problems. But it is an information expansion that is incredible, and it needs to be, searchable, retrievable, in context, to the extent that, like, let's all face it, Google has done a magnificent job of indexing the information that's publicly available in the internet. I wouldn't say it's a tip of the iceberg, but there's a lot more information residing within large organizations that can be put to work either via knowledge graph or some sort of search mechanism where it can be retrieved in context for someone to make a better decision. You mentioned something that I find really interesting, in that you have been part of this transformation of Halliburton into a data-driven organization. And I find that needs to be, that cultural shift needs to be led from the top, but then quickly proven out throughout the organization. Tell us about that. Was there a key moment in Halliburton becoming even more data-driven?
I think in fact, I give credit to the leadership of Halliburton, right? Because 2014, they brought me in from outside the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, as I said, oil and gas person. And charter was, what can we do to actually leverage data? And that's when I established the Center of Excellence for Big Data, Data Science, and Digital in 2014, when the market started crashing at that time. And then by 2016, I think I was the only one hiring data scientists in this industry.
Wow.
So Halliburton leadership has been really, I would say, ahead of the game in this. And then I think 2016 or 2017, I can't remember exact time frame, but we announced what is called an open access platform so that one can build models called openearth.community, so that people can actually build solutions much faster, which was unheard of in the industry at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's take the date of 2017, and then in 2020, Shell announced what is called OS2U, like Open Sphere Data Universe or something like that.
Yeah.
OS2U. So it took a service company to actually start this journey, and then the big giants to follow.
Well, congratulations on that. I have a final question for you today, Dr. Priyadarshy.
Yeah.
So, you've had a lot of accomplishments. Look back at you. What would you tell your younger self, your 22 or 25-year-old version of yourself, about data and about things to look out for in your career?
I don't know. From a data point, I still feel I'm that same young. I still look at the challenges the same way, because every challenge is a new challenge. You see, and the way I keep myself personally, I'm saying that, but I keep myself young in that because I also teach at universities, and
Mm-hmm.
there are my students who are in that age range of 25, and it really keeps me active. And I tell them that, the things to learn about data science is not course, it is practice and open mind.
Right.
Do not have a thick skin, because people will really tell you that you are doing wrong, or this cannot happen because I've been doing it for 25 years. In fact, I still remember one of the senior executive in the industry who told me, oh, I have data warehouse and I can download R. So why do I need big data platform?
Right.
So you will find these people under whom you would be working. So don't just really get disillusioned by that. Focus on what you can produce, the value from the data, and then show it.
Excellent. That's great advice.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Satyam Priyadarshy, Senior Fellow, Chief Data Scientist at Halliburton, it has been a pleasure to speak with you today. More interviews can be found at cdomagazine.tech. I'm Tim Brooks with Worldwide Technology, and it's been a great pleasure speaking with Dr. Priyadarshy today.
Thank you so much, Tim.